Good morning. It is Sunday, November 16th, in the morning, actually, and just wanted to answer a couple emails and questions I've been getting as to why I do what I do. And to kind of further explain that, a lot of people just don't seem to understand or don't really agree, whatever they want to say about some of the pro bono work that I've talked about doing and some of the help that we provide to domestic violence victims and everything else. And they ask if I have some kind of chip on my shoulder, or why am I only willing to help one area of people in need, like domestic violence victims? Why not help others? And the reality is, we do help others. We help lots of others. I also have, for obvious reasons, we help a lot of vets and doing all sorts of things for them, from criminal to civil to family law and everything else. But I guess if somebody's really pushing and asking why I do what I do, I think it just kind of goes to who I am and who I was born to be and everything else. I grew up, I'm not going to overly share details and everything else, but I teach seminars and give talks about domestic violence and things like that. And so I think one of the things that I like to share is a feeling that I had when I was younger, and that feeling of a 10-year-old boy hiding in the back of a closet, listening to your abusers coming for you, and knowing in your heart of hearts that nobody is coming to save you, that nobody is going to intervene. That terror, that unspeakable, crushing fear that you're going to be hurt and there's nothing you can do about it. Now, fast forward a little bit, and I served time as a police officer, military, and everything else. And one of the axioms that you hear quite a bit is, no one is coming to save you, expect self-rescue, right? And that can apply in all sorts of ways. I've actually been trying to write a book about this for a while, but been a little busy. You take some of my childhood experiences, and you take some of my other experiences, and it kind of carved out this feeling where I don't like to watch other people be hurt or victimized. I graduated high school. I was a really scrawny little kid. I was 5'10", weighed like 130, 135 pounds. I run fast. That was about all I had going for me. But I was really skinny, had a hard time putting on weight. Got to college and started working out really heavily. And by my sophomore year, I'd grown another couple inches. I was 6'1", 220 by the mid-semester of my sophomore year. And kept growing, apparently, because now I'm 6'2" and weigh about 235 pounds. But the reality of the situation is it's not physically that I'm talking about, being able to protect somebody, right? It's nice to be able to do that too. It's nice to be able to stand up and defend yourself or defend those that love you. I actually consider that a responsibility of a man as a father, and everything else is to be able to not just provide for your family, but to be able to protect for your family, protect your loved ones, and those that you care about, take them under your wing and truly be able to provide and protect. I think that's a very important, if not the most important responsibility God has given me, is to protect mine, those he has entrusted to my care. And so when people ask me why I do what I do, sure, a lot of that has to do with that, but there are a lot of other things. I've had to kind of pull myself together by myself and deal with life by myself to a great extent, not having a mentor professionally or anything else like that. And it's just one of those things where I've had to kind of claw, fight, scratch, bite, and fight my way through life, which is fine. A lot of people do that. I'm not actually sad about that at all. But I didn't have daddy's connections. I didn't have daddy money or mommy money. I didn't have any of that. Everything I have in my life, I've had to fight for and achieve and take for myself. And so when I see other people out there willing to do the same, willing to fight through life and willing to push and willing to really try as hard as they can, then I'm absolutely willing to try to help them in every way I can. And as a law firm, that obviously means, we help people with legal fees, and we provide pro bono services and everything else. But on top of that, we've been able to help people in other ways, and not just financially, but emotionally as well. I think what a lot of people don't think about is the world is a pretty ugly and pretty brutal place. And there really is a absolute dearth of goodness sometimes. And you add to the fact that people, 74% on average of the country is struggling with depression and anxiety. And so you add to the fact that not only are people struggling anyway, whether it's struggling to provide, struggling to survive, whatever the struggle may be, on top of everything else, they're struggling to fight through what's going on in their own head, right? They're struggling through depression and anxiety. They're struggling through all these difficult times. And as somebody who struggles with depression and fights it and everything else, that's part of the other reason of why I do what I do, right? Because it's not just about knowing that monster is coming to get you and there's nobody that can stop them. It's also trying to realize that that monster doesn't exist, right? In the cases of abusers, obviously those monsters exist and they were real and they put their physical hands on you and everything else. I'm talking about that mental monster, that depression, that anxiety that tells you and lies to you about who you are and what you're doing here and how good of a person you are and everything else. Now, I don't like speaking for other people when it comes to depression because, we as humans are inherently dynamic. Everything affects us differently and everything else. And so I'll just share personal stories. I've been diagnosed with combat-related PTSD. My symptomology is depression and anxiety. I have hypervigilance as well. And these are no means any way to brag about anything. I think that the reality of what I deal with is just sometimes it's hard because you wake up in the morning or during the day, or it could be literally any time. And your brain starts lying to you, right? And you get confused a little bit and you forget a little bit about who you are and who you can be and what your purpose on this life is. And for somebody like me, I'm a father of 7 children, right? And I take it as such a sense of pride and honor that I can support, protect, and provide for them and everything else. And so sometimes when I'm struggling, I know I feel like I'm not enough or nothing that I do is good enough. And I feel like I start to feel, and if I let myself spiral enough, I start to feel like the kids, the office, everybody around me would be better off without me, right? And that's that depression chipping away at your mind and your soul. That's that depression that sits and lies to you about everything, right? Whether or not you believe in God, whether or not you're religious, I think one of the things that I struggled with when depression first hit me was I didn't know what it was, right? And so I didn't understand what was going on with me. And I had a very unique kind of onset, candidly, and I'll share it. I was defending a child. Not defending, I was representing a child who had been raped repeatedly by her father. And it was a 3-year-old child. And it was in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I can tell you the court date, time, and everything else. I mean, the father literally protested me by name on the street in front of the courthouse. But he had violated his daughter so bad that she could not have kids. And so I got him on the stand in the family law case, and I got him to confess what he had done, and we got him convicted in the criminal case. And he was headed to prison and filed this last Hail Mary for visitation with his daughter before he went to prison. And I never thought it would work. I mean, we had experts, we had child psychologists there, we had the mom, we had an entire gallery full of people. I never thought in a million years that it would work or that it would happen. And we went through and the judge granted him a supervised visit before he went to prison. And I to this day, I've never understood why that happened, never understood why the judge wanted to do that to that little girl. And she had been 3 at the time of the violations. And then by the time we got to court, I think she was about 4.5. And so the reality of the situation is like she hadn't even seen her dad in a couple of years by that point, and I did not understand the point of the visit. I hope to never understand that ruling, candidly. But I remember I stood up we had news and we had lots of people in the courtroom that day. And I stood up and I walked away from counsel table. And, in the courtroom, you have counsel tables, and then there's that little kind of swinging gate with a small wall or fence in between what we call the gallery, which is, they look like church pews, and then the counsel table, the open area in front of the judge and the witness and the jury box and everything else. That's called the bar, that little wall with the little gate. I pushed through the gate of the bar and I walked into the gallery. And the weirdest thing happened to me. It was my world went from Technicolor. I was seeing all the different colors and everything else. And then all of a sudden, everything went to grayscale. And I lost the ability to see in color. And I was pretty bewildered at the time by the case, but that shocked me. I was worried that I had a pretty bad medical issue going on or whatever. And I walked out of the courtroom, did an interview with the press and talked to the family, and kind of walked out of the courthouse and walked back to my office, which at that time wasn't too far away. And the problem I was running into is just a comprehension, and then the comprehension as to why things happened the way they did. Right? I could never understand why the judge wanted to let that dad around that girl that he had raped so many times. Why do that to that little girl? Why give her that memory? Why let her put a face to her predator like that? Something that at an age now that she'll never forget, right? And so I walked back to my office, still not able to see color. I actually my color didn't come back for a couple of days, right? And so I talked to a couple different people. I talked to some church leaders. I talked to some lawyer friends. I really know who to talk to. And religiously, right? I prayed and I tried to ask God like what was going on and like help my heart heal and help my body heal, and talk to church leaders. And in my church, they're not professional clergy, right? They typically don't have any real type of professional counseling, or it's a volunteer profession. It's a position. Oh, words are hard today. It's a volunteer position, and oftentimes they don't have any better clue about mental health than I did at the time. And so I started doing some things. I started studying, and ended up enrolling in a program, and this is what led me to get my PhD in psychology. But just trying to figure myself out, which I never really did do. But I did go to a bunch of different psychologists and psychiatrists, and I was bounced around with different diagnoses and everything else. One being acute PTSD, which isn't even a thing. That's not in at the time it was the DSM-4 or anything else, but that's not even a real diagnosis. But at any rate, that first experience with depression, as I was going through that, I wanted to run away from everything. I wanted to run away from my family. I wanted to run away from my job, my profession. I wanted to run away from my church, my everything. I just basically wanted to run away and hide in a cave. I lost the desire to be around people. I lost the desire to be around pretty much anything. And that depression, well, I tried to learn how to control it. I went to cognitive behavioral therapy. I did PTSD counseling. I tried different meds and everything else. But regardless, at the end of the day, depression never fully goes away. It doesn't matter what's going on with you biologically, or if you're on great meds or anything else. It's always kind of lingering in there. It's like a ghost, right? It's a ghost in your closet. It's a monster under your bed, or however you want to phrase it. It's that constant, almost schizophrenic voice that you hear that just whispers that you're not good enough, or people would be better without you, or you're a failure, or you're not going to do things right, or whatever the case. And for somebody like me, if you don't know me individually, I tend to be kind of a perfectionist. Not that I'm perfect by any means. That's not what I mean. But I want to make things as close to perfect as I can. And the reason why that's relevant is because that's where things really got to me. That's how I was really attacked pretty effectively. Is I suddenly just felt like I couldn't do anything right, and no matter what I did, it wasn't going to be right. It wasn't going to be enough. And so as you go through and you're dealing with these issues, when you pull through on the other side, and it took actually a long time for me, and obviously I still have struggles to this day, and I've been fighting with depression and anxiety now for a good gravy 16, 17 years. And And so as you're going through and trying to learn how to cope and do all these things, you meet other people going through the same things. For me, especially, I meet a lot of first responders and vets, and we kind of click. It's that old saying, we spilled the same mud and the same blood in the same mud, and we've stood in the same boots, and we've been there, done that, and we can relate to each other, and we understand how hard it can be. We understand survivor's guilt. We understand that, if you lose a guy in combat, or if you have a friend that dies and you feel like that person was better than you, and sometimes even if you don't feel like they were better than you, but in their passing, you feel like an injustice in the fact that you're alive and they're gone. And so that's part of this whole thing as life goes on, and it just keeps punching you. And then depression is working on you, anxiety is working on you, and then you don't feel like you're doing a good enough job, and you don't feel like you're doing anything. And really, for me, a couple things changed my life. One of the things, obviously, is staying busy. That's probably my number one cure-all. And believe it or not, exercise, working out, and cardio, not only has it saved my life physically, but it's also one of those things that helps you. It's probably the best antidepressant you can ever have, because it releases those hormones in your brain that allow you to feel that sense of happiness and everything else again. One of the other things is just study. I know a lot of people that know me personally. I'm a pretty voracious reader, and I'm a huge nerd. And so I firmly have adopted an aspect that I learned in all of my years of martial arts of make the mind civilized and the body savage. And obviously, I'm getting old, and so my body's not as savage as it used to be, or probably could be otherwise. But as part of, I have to take everything in stride, considering I still have a absolutely more than full-time job as a lawyer, and the other things I do. And so I do the best I can, and I can say that. But then you have to reach that point, right? You have to reach a point where you say, okay, I've done everything I can to cure this and to fix it. And then at some point in your life, you're going to have to sit down and look yourself in the mirror and really come to terms with who you are. Really comes to terms with, if you feel like having depression and anxiety makes you broken, or some of the things that happened in your life, the different traumas and everything else, if that's what makes you feel like who you are, you define yourself by X, right? You have to come to terms with who you are, because nobody else can do that. And you have to come to terms with where you're going, which is wholly on your shoulders. So it comes all the way back to that saying, expect self-rescue. No one is coming to save you, because nobody else can challenge you, can push you, can save you. Nobody can. Even if you're talking about a relationship with God, there is no priest, there is no anybody, no priest, apostle, bishop, pastor, witch doctor. There's nobody that can stand between you and God and fix your relationship with God except for you. You have to figure out and work out your own salvation with fear and trembling, as the Bible says. But that's not just with God. That's with yourself. You also have to figure out your own salvation with yourself, right? You have to figure out who you are and come to terms with that. And if there's something you don't like about yourself, you have to have the courage to fix it, right? And if there's something that you don't like about yourself that you can't fix, you have to be realistic enough to understand, well, that's a permanent part of me, right? A lot of you, maybe you can or can't see in the current light, but I have a crazy scar down my forehead, and people remark about it from time to time, like, man, you should do something about that. I'm like, man, why? It doesn't affect anything I do, and it's part of my life. There you go. That's a better picture of it. It's part of my life. It's part of my life history, and it doesn't affect anything else. Like, why change it, right? I have a lot of scars, but I can't change, both physically, emotionally, mentally, most likely. But at the end of the day, it's who I am. And I struggle with that sometimes. Like on the bad days, right? You struggle with who you are. But at least if you've had that sit down with yourself and you understand that you are the captain of your own fate, that you are your own master at the wheel, that nobody else can save you but you, that your life is completely in your own hands. You have to do away, truly, you have to do away with all the background about, oh, if this wouldn't have happened to me, I wouldn't be this person, or if this person would have done this, this wouldn't happen. No. Everybody has a sad story. Everybody. Every single person I've ever met in my life, excuse me, Everybody I've ever met has some type of sad issue, trauma, obstacle, trial, tribulation, or something that they've had to work through or that they are currently working through. The difference is are we going to allow ourselves to be defined by that? Or are we going to allow ourselves to be defined by who we want to be? Right? So do you want to be defined as, oh, I'm Josh Carpenter, the failed whatever, or I'm Josh Carpenter, the abused whatever. I'm Josh Carpenter, the conned, or the taken advantage of, or the conspiracy conspired against, or whatever the case is. It really doesn't matter because most of you that are watching this don't know me personally yet, right? And so a lot of you that when you meet me and everything else, you're just going to get to know somebody. Most likely, I know in one of my videos I'm in a suit, but I usually wear a suit. You're going to meet somebody in a suit and tie that just seems like, hopefully, seems like a pretty normal person. But the reality is I've been through it. I've been through the ringer. I've seen and done hard things, and just like everybody else. And so at the end of the day, we have to decide, are we defined by our past? Are we going to define our own future? Right? And I'm not trying to create like a bunch of fortune cookie sayings or anything else like that, but like when we sit down with ourselves and have that face to face, and we have to have that face to face with ourselves, we have to have that face to face with God, we have to have that face to face with our families and our friends. We have to be honest, truly, about who we are at some point in our life, because life will humble you at some point. You will be knocked down, you will be kicked, you'll be stepped on, and then you're going to think, oh, I'm at rock bottom. And then you're going to fall down further and you're going to be even further down. And you're like, oh, I can't get any worse. And it does, it gets worse. And then things keep just piling on. And you reach that point in your life where you feel like you're just on your knees and you're just praying to God for just a little relief. And it doesn't come, and it doesn't come, and you're shaking your fists at heaven and you're saying, why me, God? Why? Why is this happening to me? I just need a little help. I just need a little peace. I need a little relief. And sometimes it comes right away, and sometimes you just have to keep treading water, just putting one foot in front of the other. Now, when you're talking about somebody in my position of why do I do what I do, this is precisely why I do what I do. Because I know and I have felt how hard it is to be at the lowest of lows. And I know what it feels like and how amazing it feels like to be at the highest of highs. And at the end of the day, in my opinion, it doesn't hold any value to be at the highest of highs and to have whatever you want, whatever goals you're setting. You do not exist in a vacuum. Everything you do affects somebody else in some way in this life. And so if you can get out and if you can help even one person, if you can just do that one thing, it's like the starfish story I tell all the time, right? With a man out on the beach covered in starfish that have washed up from a storm. And he's picking them up one by one and throwing them back into the ocean. And the other man comes up and he says, what are you doing? He says, I'm throwing them back in the ocean. He's like, but there are millions of starfish out here. Do you really think you can make a difference? And he picks one up, throws it back in the ocean. He says, made a difference for that one. And sometimes, even if that's all we can do, is just help one other person, I believe that's worth it. Because in my life, I've had some very specific times in my life where people have picked me up out of the sand. They've grabbed me by the hand. And they've literally saved my life. I have somebody that I consider a lifelong friend at this point that literally saved my life when I was in a very dark place. And he just called me on the phone. He's like, hey, man, your name just kept popping in my mind, and I just felt like I needed to give you a call. And what he didn't know is I was about ready to just finish everything right then. And if he hadn't made that call, I probably would have. But that call gave me enough hope that somebody in this world thought about me or cared about me, because my brain was lying to me, right? That it stopped me from doing it at that moment. He made a difference. And no matter what he does for the rest of his life, in my mind, he was my savior. He saved my life when he did not have to. So you never know if it's that phone call, right? You never know if it's that hug. You never know if it's just that, hey, that text, hey, checking on you, make sure you're okay. You don't really know what's going on with somebody else. You don't know what wars we are all fighting behind the scenes. You don't know that one person in your office that's super happy and outgoing all the time, and then they close the door in their office and they break down and cry for 20 minutes because they just can't take it anymore. You never know what that one little simple thing can do to make a difference. And so I feel like I've been given some tools and abilities to help people. And so I help people that can't necessarily help themselves, especially in the legal world. And I try to help people even when they can help themselves. My goal really, and actually the goal of our law firm, if you ever come into interview, we would ask a couple very specific questions, right? One of the questions is, what kind of study you do and what are your goals, right? Because the end goal of this company that we are running is to become the best versions of ourselves, which isn't easy, by the way. Everybody struggles, everybody is going to fall and have a hard time. But secondarily to that, the second goal is we want to become masters of our craft. We want to be the best lawyers that we can be the best people we can be. And the reason why those coincide with each other is because as we're talking about all these emotions, as we're talking about things like depression, anxiety, and why we do what we do, at the end of the day, we don't know what is ever going on with somebody's life. And so we have to assume as lawyers, we always say that we plan for the worst and hope for the best. But I think that applies for everybody in life, right? I think as we're going through life, we need to try to reach out to people and believe that there are good in people, right? We have to try to believe that divine spark is in everybody and that somewhere in there's a good person. Now, I'm not saying overextend yourself and help to the point where you're hurting yourself or anything else like that. I've been there, done that as well. But what I do mean is sometimes the simple things are not simple things to the recipients, right? Sometimes that hug, that handshake, that phone call, that text, sometimes that a little bit of free legal advice, sometimes that helping somebody through a hard time in a case, sometimes through whatever the case may be, buying somebody lunch, buying somebody a candy bar, like it doesn't really matter. Whatever the issue may be, might be that single thing they hold on to keep fighting in this life, right? Now, there are two sides of this coin, right? Because a lot of people come in and they say, oh, you're doing all these things for self-aggrandizement and everything else, and absolutely not. If you walk through our office, we've won tons of awards, Lawyers of the Year on all sorts of fronts and all sorts of this and that. You're not going to see that on the walls. And people ask me why, and I'm going to tell you right now, we don't put that up because it's not about us, right? To a certain extent it is. You want to know who we are and what we stand for and what we can do for the community. I understand that educationally, professionally, that's great. Well, we have our diplomas, we have our license. But if you really want to know why almost 50 employees of this law firm do what they do, it's because all of us are trying to help people, right? So all the awards in the world, all the certificates in the world, everything else, like they don't mean anything to anybody. And if they do, it's kind of a sad state of affairs because let me tell you a little secret about lawyer awards. Most of them are bought. So if you see a lot of oh, I'm a super lawyer this, or I'm this, that, or I'm this or that, like they're all paid for, bought and paid for. And if anybody says they're not, like I'll walk you through happily the whole process because it means nothing. We do have awards here that we've won. We've won Lawyer of the Year by various domestic violence legal resources places. We've won all sorts of things that actually do matter, but we still don't put those up because we don't want to make it just about that. We want to try to help people and meet people where they are. And so maybe that makes a difference or makes sense to some people, maybe it doesn't to others. But at the end of the day, we're all human and we're all trying the best we can. We're all inherently very broken people. And neither us nor anybody around us are ever perfect. And so if anybody tries to act perfect or tries to act like they're the perfect whatever, it's a big red flag to me and probably most of you. And so this is why we do what we do, because at the end of the day, we've been there, done that, right? It's like an insurance commercial. We know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two. And we have hundreds of years of experience in the legal field. We have years and years experience in law enforcement and military. We've got teachers on staff. We've got all sorts of other things that people have done. We've got professional musicians. We have cooks. We have all sorts of this crazy assortment of amazing things that have come together in this team. And ideally to meet people where they are, wherever that may be, and to be able to reach out a hand, help pull them up, and move on down the road. And so I hope this helps understanding a little bit of our motivation, or even if it's just my personal motivation, everything else. I hope this clarifies some things for you. I know this is a little bit more of a serious type video, and I hope I didn't give you too much of a downer on this Sunday. But the reality is sometimes it does help. It definitely helps to understand where people are coming from and everything else. I promise one of my next videos will be much more engaging and probably lively. But any more questions or emails or anything else, just let me know, and I will try to answer your questions the best I can. Don't forget our podcast. It's getting better and better. We finished episode 5, which should be going live either today or tomorrow. We're getting new software. The first couple of episodes are actually kind of hard to listen to me because they're pretty grainy and staticky. So we'll see if we can filter through those and get those better. We're going to be adding some music and some other fun stuff. And any of those suggestions, happy to hear it. Any more suggestions about social media, the website, the practice, or whatever else, please let us know. We really do try to be the best that we can be. And so appreciate you. And hope you guys have a fantastic Sunday, and look forward to talking some more. And any of you guys want to meet or talk or whatever else, just let us know, give us a call, and we'll make it happen. Thank you very much. Bye.